Icons, Iconoclasm and Innovation in Fashion and Accessories Design. I am Frank Zambrelli, and I have been an accessory designer for longer than I care to admit publicly. Beyond that, I am the chairman of the Accessories Council, and I am thrilled to be here today, especially considering the esteemed panel we have.
Oh, you're just making me blush like a white woman.
So I'm going to start here. You can see the name tags maybe a little bit out of order on the screen here. But let me begin with the introductions of our esteemed panel. First, actually third, just in the order they are on the screen, Brooke Jaffe. Brooke, if you'd raise your hand. Brooke, many of you may know. She is the operating vice president and fashion director of Bloomingdale's, basically responsible for roving the world and bringing the new, the innovative, the chic, the exciting, the traditional, the classic, and the fabulous to Bloomingdale's and to all of us in the city. Prior to doing it on the larger runways of the world, she was doing a very similar thing in the accessories category, and prior to that, worked at a few small books you might have heard of called Vogue and In Style as the accessories editor. So near and dear to our industry's heart, and should add some good content to today's conversation.
Frank is my publicist.
And doesn't she have a lovely new headshot?
What? Can I ask a question? What is Vogue magazine?
Yes. I'll tell you later. It's for
Okay.
adults only, Jay. Sorry. Remember when you're a little older.
Okay.
It's light. Easy to walk around.
Seated right next to me, Salima Salon of Salima Optique, of course, the founder of Salima Optique, but also a vintage accessories collector and, of course, an eyewear designer. Many of you, all of you, probably know her from her 8 boutiques in New York and Los Angeles, a little part of Paris called Le Marais. Salima has been in this industry a long time. She not that long, 2 or 3 minutes at this point, right? Yes. Starting with Royal Optique, of course, the famous, one of the early purveyors of custom eyewear, came to the States to join Alain Micli during a very seminal time for that brand. And then once she had learned what she could, decided it was time to do her own thing. And of course, the rest is quite a bit of history. She has made some eyewear for just a few famous people, and many more than that, of course, and really prides herself, and the brand, if you will, is really all about innovation and exploring the aesthetic and exploring the category as an art form, not just as eyewear.
He could be my publicist too, actually. Amazing, thank you.
Next to Salima is Catherine Fortunato. And many of you know the jewelry brand that has just exploded, and recently more of an accessories brand as well, Lizzie Fortunato by Catherine and Lizzie Fortunato. They have been named multiple times as the hottest brand in the market right now. It's been just a few years since they formed the business, but their individuality and their appreciation for crafting here in New York, by the way, some of the most exciting pieces, and the runway collaborations that they've done with Suno and Jenny Kane and Matthew Williamson, VPL, some of the most exciting names out there, has really sort of brought them to the forefront. They are expanding into handbags and I presume some other categories momentarily, so she will lend some good conversation today. And perhaps interestingly, prior to the sort of creative little left turn that she took, she was in risk management for Goldman Sachs. So you can imagine the books are pretty tight at Lizzie Fortunato.
Lizzie's in the audience. She can attest to the fact that I don't let her spend any money.
There you go. Good. Like a good sister. All right. They are also, if any of you have recently seen Sorel's new campaign, they are the featured. Featured ladies, if you will. So very exciting. And last and hardly least is Jay Alexander, Miss J, as we like to call him. Miss J will tell you, first and foremost, the minute you speak to him, that he is not an accessories expert. He is not a fashion expert, and he will be lying the whole time he tells you that. Of course, is preliminarily famous as a runway coach. He's taught a few people how to walk. Some names you might never have heard of, like Naomi Campbell, and things like that. But he's also an author. He's also been, I say, in his own sense, a fashion icon, because he's been working with fashion icons and making icons out of fashion on the runway for a very long time. He's worked with, well, going back a little bit, Bill Blass, but also Valentino, Mr. Lagerfeld at Chanel, my goodness, Jean-Paul Gaultier. Who else have you worked with? Alexander McQueen. Just a
everybody,
few,
everybody.
right? Just a few.
Don't
So
stop dropping those names.
that's
Tired
what
of
the
bending
fashion
over.
industry is all about. Jay.
Tired
We're
of
name
bending over
droppers.
and hurting my back, picking up those names you're dropping along this table.
And perhaps many of you had the opportunity to read his book, Follow the Model, which was a really interesting guide to sort of unleashing your personal power. A fascinating tome, inspired really by the passion of the industry. And that's really what today is all about. We're talking about icons, iconoclasm, and innovation, and how this industry that we're in, this fashion and accessories business, which can seem very topical and on its surface a little bit about shallow commerce, how it really does have meaning, how it plants roots, and how it becomes much more than just a piece of commercial activity. And I'm going to start, though, in that very emotive place with icons. And I'm going to ask the panel to look behind them at a number of things on the screen. And you can pick one, you can pick two, you can comment on as many as you'd like. But if you look behind you, I'd like to hear the one that strikes you, the one that maybe means something to you, and just not empirical, not the facts and figures, but tell me what it means to you, what it says to you, and why it feels important as an icon in our business.
Maybe I'll start with the glasses, because I grew up in the South Bronx. I'm number 7 of 10 kids, and I hated wearing my brother's old clothes. So I would take things, I would cut them apart and make them look different, so I wouldn't be teased going to school. Say, oh, you wore your brother's stuff that he wore last year. So I decided to take things and make them different. So the eyeglasses would be, let's say my mother's glasses on the left and maybe my other sister's on the right, and I would just bust them up with some tape and then go and put them together and there's some glasses. So that made it iconic. And then I think today with what makes a certain piece of accessories and a garment iconic is the media and the people who are wearing it, you know, which I think also downgrades it, unfortunately. Like Kim Kardashian. I'm sorry. I mean, it's...
Jay's also a comedian.
It's no, but it's sort of, you know, all of a sudden the chic ladies in Paris, where I live, you know, sort of like don't want the labels anymore. They don't want the loud labels because they don't want to be associated with that type of media and social stigmatism.
Interesting.
And when you put the pictures up, I had an immediate response to the Cartier Love bracelet. For many reasons, there's an emotional quality that I just felt because I think, you know, many of the pieces in fashion that sustain over time, there's something sentimental about it. It feels like something that you aspire to. I think anything Cartier just sort of feels, you know, so luxe, the ultimate. It's just a brand that kind of has withstood the test of time for a number of reasons, but to then associate it with something so emotional like the feeling of love, that whoever would give you that bracelet, even if it's just that you love yourself and you bought it for yourself,
Always a good reason.
reminder, a constant daily reminder of that. And just to have that is special.
Great.
I would say for me, the piece that I'll comment on will be on the bottom left, the Tom Binns piece. And while Tom Binns might not be maybe the household name that Cartier is, for me being in sort of the costume jewelry space, he's sort of an icon of his own in our space. He really paved the way for costume jewelry designers to really stand on their own next to, you know, fine jewelry. So now you've got Michelle Obama attending a White House dinner, and instead of wearing maybe the Cartier piece, she's wearing the Tom Binns sequin and safety pin and pearl, necklace or bracelet. And, you've got all of a sudden people taking very seriously the idea that costume jewelry can be like a fine collector's item. And I think that he in particular has been incredibly stubborn about keeping his distribution small, keeping his production local, and I think that element will probably come up a lot in this conversation about having, an exclusivity and a handmade craftsmanship element makes so many of these pieces sort of distinct and iconic.
Yeah, sorry. I guess it's my turn. Oh my God, I feel shy after speaking after them. They all speak so well. I should be talking about the glasses, but Jay spoke about them. Then I'm going to talk about the Chanel jacket. And for me, it's an iconic piece in the fact that Gabrielle Chanel made women feel more free, because back in the day, in the 20s, when she started designing, women were wearing all the corsets, and especially like these big collars, and they were completely like, tight and close. And Gabrielle was looking, she loved men, by the way, but also women, but she was looking at men all the time, being very free, very comfortable in their clothes, and especially when she would go to Normandy or in the Basque coast, she would see like those fishermen wearing like the jackets, the tops, with the very, very comfortable. And she loved also men on horses. They had like these jersey tops. And she was like, why women cannot wear something very comfortable and let them, feel much better and freer? And that's why I love that, actually. And I think it's an iconic
love the
piece.
icon because of its iconoclasm. I love that you jumped ahead and didn't even know
Sorry.
it. No, it's perfect. It's a perfect answer.
While I was speaking about that Cartier bracelet, you see, I hate that bracelet. The reason why I hate it is because once the divorce is over, he kept the screwdriver.
Oh, it became a chastity
So I
bracelet
could-
at that
so I
point,
couldn't get out of
permanently
it.
attached to your wrist. Fabulous. Jay touched on something earlier about media helping to create icons. Brooke, you work in an emporium filled with icons. If you think about some of the historical ones, which have been established for so long that maybe we're not even aware of where they came from, you've had the sort of privilege, perhaps, of seeing new things, like the Tom Binns necklace and others, become icons. So let's get a little empirical, a little scientific. If we start to pull apart, what are the factors that help create an icon? I'm sure it is probably media, but it must be other things. What do you suspect helps make an icon iconic versus just something else of great design?
I think that the designer themselves is steadfast and focused on what their vision is. They have a DNA. They don't let outside people steer them. They stick to a vision. I think that's one thing. So I always say that when a brand has a DNA, when you can see it from across the room and you know what it is, that's a special quality. It's something that is hard to come by. And it's something that when you see a new designer, you know, okay, I'm looking at something that's different and I'm looking at something that's specific to this person. And that's exciting and electrifying. And it's exciting to meet someone in any part of your life that really doesn't care what anyone thinks and really tries to disrupt the status quo. I think that's a hard and courageous thing to do.
You should marry that person.
I'm going to marry that person. So I think there's maybe a little bit of a rebel spirit or just a conviction and belief in oneself, which I think would be really challenging to do as a designer creator, because people at Bloomingdale's always say there's many opinions as you ask for, and that's true. And I think you got to kind of keep your eye on the prize. So those would be the biggest things that I would say. The other thing is that in this day and age, I think, and I don't want to hit on every topic, but we're so barraged by imagery and social media, and it's not like the bygone times of seeing one image of a celebrity, going to dinner, and that's like an iconic image. Like there's one of those every 10 seconds on Instagram, and it dilutes what's major in a way.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to say, for me, it's very important that it stands the test of time, and otherwise it cannot, because it's true nowadays with all the bloggers and the social media, there's so many new products all the time. But if you have a product that has been extremely well executed and you can keep forever, and especially like in vintage, like there's some pieces you will wear and they will always have the cool or wow factor. And for me, this is something that is iconic. Like if you see Steve McQueen with his Persol, and nowadays we have collectors from all over the world who come to buy those glasses. The aviators that the pilots were wearing during the World War, everybody wants those glasses. Audrey Hepburn with the Wayfarer in Breakfast at Tiffany's. Look at the success of Wayfarer today with it's amazing. And it's very important, like not only a lot of people wearing the product, but also something that is really well constructed. I would say like the craftsmanship has to be exquisite. The quality is important and then stand the test of time. And it's an iconic piece. Sorry.
I agree with you 100% because I think what needs to happen is that you need to be able to pass that quality down to your grandchildren. So if you wear it, oh, child, that's old. That's old. Her grandmother wore that. But if the granddaughter wears it, it makes it really, really cool. And then everybody wants it. It makes it really cool. I mean, then you get, go into the whole fakes versus the real, like the quality of it, Is she wearing? If I wore a fake bag, they'd be, oh, no, that child, that's real because I have it, but if you really look at it and know your quality and know your craftsmanship, you know that it's not good. So it should stand the beat down of generations and still look good. And when your great-granddaughter wears it, it's really, really a cool bag with a cool pair of jeans and a cool T-shirt.
Yeah.
So, Catherine, time, signature, quality,
What can I add?
please.
I think that there's, in addition to time, I think there's timing is a very important element as well. And as I sort of thought about a few of the iconic brands and symbols that you mentioned to us in the introductory comments, I think that if you look at all of these pieces, if you look at the Cartier Love bracelet, or if you look at the Birkin bag, that in theory should tell us somewhere about where we were in history when that evolved or when that piece came about. And so as I was thinking about, the Chanel quilted purse, I was reading up on it and didn't know that had straps added to it because Coco Chanel didn't want to carry her clutch anymore. She wanted functionality and was inspired by the soldiers' straps on their backpack. Or with the Birkin bag, Jane Birkin, of course, inspired it. I didn't realize that she inspired it when her straw carry-on bag tumbled out of the luggage compartment on the airplane and everything came spilling out of it. So I think being sort of at the intersection of having everything that my peers have said, having great design, quality craftsmanship, and an iconic DNA to your brand, I think that you have to be at the correct sort of timing in history where you can create a piece that says something about the social movement of the time. Women are all of a sudden ready to have a bag with a strap on it and don't need to have the dainty little Sunday clutch anymore.
Please.
I think something that's just interesting about the Chanel bag, because you and I are in the same camp, we did our homework. I think that the hands-free factor is really interesting because part of the reason these bags have endured is there is a functionality aspect, and why women were hands-free then, it might be different than it is now. We have to text message all day long now, so we need our hands. But it's just part of the reason these styles endure is now, I think, functionality is such a big part of design, and I think it's even affected some of the new cutting edge designers' use of materials and fabrications, things that really perform, because women really don't have time to go home and change for the party anymore. We are out and things have to take us everywhere and really work for us. So, I mean, that's like a whole other can of worms, but it's something that I've been thinking about.
It's funny because we talk about all these luxury items, but when you think about it, look at also the how do we say, basket, the streetwear. And I was talking with some friends. I didn't do my homework like you, but I spoke with some friends, yeah. And they were telling me, like in Paris now, a lot of people think it's super cool to wear sneakers. That's what I meant, not basket, sneakers. Because why? Back in the day, here in New York, all the working women would take the subway in their sneakers, then change their shoes, and then, it was part of the
I
culture.
hated that moment, by the way.
No, but and now, look, Chanel makes sneakers, Balenciaga makes sneakers, everybody makes sneakers. They're so cool. And that's an iconic item. Could be very cheap or really expensive.
I agree, and it's called supply and demand.
Yes.
It really, really is. I mean, because at one point when women were wearing those shoes and the length of the skirts and the cankles, it was like, oh, she got, oh,
And the
God, what you-
hosiery.
support hose, and all of a sudden it became cool because Chanel made it
Yeah, yeah,
cool
yeah.
and Nike made it cool, and that's what I think makes things iconic and people want to have it.
So that's interesting because we're talking about maybe creating some new rules, breaking some new rules, which will bring us to iconoclasm, which is really all about upsetting the status quo, right? Breaking away from the established dogma of our industry and coming up with something completely new, flying in the face of the industry's convention. So let's think about that a little bit. Who are the game changers? And I'd like to look at it in two ways. Who are the iconoclasts in history? You started to talk a little bit, Salima, about Chanel. Yeah, obviously, that was probably one of the earlier, but even before then there were some. But let's think about an historical perspective, and then I'd love to hear who we feel are changing the game now. Who are the modern iconoclasts? So old or new, please pick, and I'd like to hear from all of you. Whoever wants to start.
You want to start?
Okay. I'll start sort of with my whole pattern of commenting on where we are from a historical perspective. And one of the names that came to my mind quickly was Vivienne Westwood. And for her, it was...
Bravo.
Uh-oh. Well, we agree. Then you only get 3 answers because Selena and I are the same voice today. But for me, she was literally an iconoclast in terms of literally taking pieces, tearing them apart, seaming them back together, using the safety pins to, hold together a dress.
It was literal
maybe.
and figurative in
So
her
literally and
iconoclasm.
figuratively. But, again, she was making a commentary on a larger movement, and she is one of the names that would be on the short list to, in my mind, represent, a very specific geographic and social movement, punk movement in Europe at the time.
Absolutely.
Azzedine Alaïa.
The master.
I think he's genius. I think he allows women to be sexy without being too vulgar. And to look at the way the clothing was cut, the detail, it's insane. He lifts things where Spanx don't lift. He puts things where things need to be. It's amazing. So I think Azzedine.
Azzedine.
What's incredible, but I just went to the Azzedine exhibit when I was in Paris.
Me too.
And every single look,
Me three.
I thought to myself, I could see this on somebody now. I could see any celebrity. I mean, it looks so relevant and so timeless, which that struck me the most.
And
But-
what is amazing is it fits every woman. You would think like Azzedine Alaïa is only for skinny girls, but I wear Alaïa, and it's one of my favorite designers, and he makes you feel like a goddess.
And that's what I said. He puts things where they need to be. He just reshapes. Well, when you get home and take it off, you kind of go, oh hell no, that's not what I left the house with, or was it? I mean, so yes, I
He
think
was the
it's-
precursor to Spanx,
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
there is one person I would mention is Karl Lagerfeld, and I have to say when you go to the the museum, to see the punk story, there was a Chanel jacket like full of holes, and I was like, it's like really. The jacket was like maybe, I don't know, $15,000 or $20,000, and that's also somebody I would think is part of it.
I don't know if this is the right answer, but I go to Alexander Wang. I'm a huge fan, and I don't know if we'll look back and really say that he. To me, that was just what I thought, because I think going back to my material thing, I feel he has taken mundane fabrics and kind of elevated them and brought this sporty. All of this fashion that is really influenced by sport and street. I really feel he's responsible for new silhouettes, neoprene having a comeback, mesh details, illusion insets, making bra straps part of your top. I mean, it just innovative uses of material and interesting cuts. And again, sometimes it looks like one thing on the hanger, and then you put it on, and it's something completely fabulous and cool, and just the way it's cut. So I'm a personal fan, and I think he has just changed contemporary clothing.
And that's because he put it on young, cool people to wear.
Totally.
If the young, cool people wear, I mean, I can look at a few moms here and a few grandmothers showing a bra strap. Look, you, girl, fix your, anybody got a safety pin? And
Need to be styled.
exactly, so you're fixing it up, but because it's a cool young girl, it makes it wow. And Alexander Wang did it; he made it acceptable, and it's cool. By the way, I love your job. I love it. J'adore.
I think Jay stole my thunder, but I was going to say that from an innovative perspective, Alexander Wang really, past the design and past what he's doing with the fabric, he sort of took his marketing and sort of what Brooke said earlier, and he's thinking about celebrity and he's thinking about his muse in, I think, a very innovative way. All of a sudden, it doesn't have to be the most famous girl out there. It's the model off duty. It's the girl who just walked the show.
Exactly.
And we didn't used to care most about that person. We cared about the person sitting front row at the show, and now we care about the girl who swung on her backpack after she left the show and what's she wearing, you know, her heeled sneakers and her black Alexander Wang sweatshirt, and that's all of a sudden the icon.
So this brings us to this notion of innovation that we're talking about, and you're speaking about it maybe in the context of communicating the brand's message, if you will. But let's talk about the innovation in the sense of what are the key influencers. So thinking about technology, omni-channel retailing, the influence of social media, and then of course there's the innovation of just sheer creative genius, great new ideas. What role is innovation playing now in the success of new labels and the success of new designers, new businesses, in an arc of variables, from the way they're communicating the brand, but also to the product itself, materials, innovation in manufacturing, and then innovation in retailing?
This is a good one because this is. Because I think that most people just want to be different. They want to be different, they want to be cool, they want to be noticed. I've been going down for the past 14 years to SCAD in Savannah, and I coach all the students how to walk like models. And I've been there, and Audrey and Tally, good friend, he's the one who suggested that I do it. And sometimes I'll go into the classrooms and I'll just ask some of the students, so what inspires you? And they do like this. I don't know. Me? Okay. And I said, you know, who influences you, and, you know, what makes you want to be a designer? And a lot of them say they want to become famous. They want to see their clothing on the red carpets. That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, you should kick those people out of the class immediately.
I just look at them and it makes no sense. And they don't know the marriage of fabrics. I don't know if it's what the teachers are teaching or is it what they're reading. I have no idea. It loses me. But I think people want to be different. They want to stand out. They want their things to look different. They want to be noticed, and they'll do everything that they can to make it work, if it makes sense.
Brooke, you just...
I need to think.
Yeah, you've just been to every show. Obviously, you just went all over the world, 4 major fashion capitals, saw every runway show. A lot of classic shows, but I'm sure a lot of innovative shows.
So many innovative shows. I mean, I'm just thinking 'cause back to just some of what keeps a brand like Chanel alive and well. It's obviously the man behind the brand, Carl, his image.
It's Oscar on the 4th floor.
What?
Never mind.
Yeah, Oscar, exactly, Oscar on the 4th floor. You know, he's a rock star in it, you know, who wears Chanel? And then the show, looking at things that, like the boucle suit, which we expect to see at the runway show, but having him completely remove the top of the suit, and now it's a cold shoulder, off-the-shoulder boucle suit. So now you have a new reason to buy another Chanel suit. And, you know, and it's amazing to me how he just can keep reimagining those key items that that customer needs. So I think that's part of what keeps a brand like Chanel
I
alive.
have, yeah, sorry, I have actually an idea. I mean, thinking about Chanel again. It's not that I'm obsessed with Chanel, by the way, but it's just, it's funny, I keep on
Vous êtes
talking about.
français, right?
No, he's like Karl Lagerfeld again. Like I remember when he did this mobile, art mobile that came in Central Park. That's an incredibly smart and innovative way to present, to talk about the brand without even showing any clothes. It was all about the most famous artists worldwide doing, I don't know if anybody has had the chance to go and see that show. It was, like the art piece. It was amazing, amazing, amazing. And they were here only for a week, I think. They went to Tokyo, and then after that there was the recession. They couldn't continue. They went back to Paris. But it was incredible. And that's an extremely innovative way to talk about a brand without showing product, but you are in everybody's mind,
I think that the fashion shows themselves, from the great people like Marc Jacobs and Karl Lagerfeld and Miuccia Prada, you go and it's an event. It's a complete experience. And something that was really exciting this fashion week, I think, was the fact that art was celebrated, that fashion and art were one, whether it was Celine with these very graphic kind of brushstrokes, or these incredible murals on the walls at Prada that were just the faces of different women. And you walked in and there's something incredibly dramatic, and then what that does and to feed into social media, to Instagram, to build the brand, and then all the people that are kind of the it girls or the models off duty, you're just, that's the brand message is being reinforced by all of the people that attend those shows. So I think the shows are becoming they're important in creating drama.
And if you get the right cool celebrity, like Tilda Swinton, she's wearing a lot of Heider Ackerman. But she likes to be hands-on in the design. I can say that because we're friends, but she likes to be there with the entire process of creating something. And she doesn't follow fashion. She doesn't even have a publicist. So she just does what she does, and she likes what she likes, and she puts it on, and she doesn't think about what the critics are saying. It's just what she likes, and for me, she's iconic since the movie Orlando.
I was thinking a lot about, and I'm not sure this was the most celebrated moment during Fashion Week, you can tell us, Brooke, but Diane von Furstenberg's idea to put Google glasses down the runway. So yeah, whether people liked it or not, unclear, but genius and
Clearly
iconic
innovative.
and innovative, certainly. And I think that, to Jay's point, wanting to be different at any cost, even if it's something that might be inappropriate
critic.
for the moment,
Exactly.
I think is certainly going to at least turn heads. And in this saturated world, you've got to figure out what's going to differentiate your show or your piece or your store from the next. And then I would just say on a smaller level, I do think that, speaking from the smallest brand at the table, Instagram has been an incredible game changer for us. We'll take a picture of a necklace at 9 o'clock in the morning and have sold 5 necklaces by 3 p.m. that afternoon. So it's incredible that we'll have friends or friends of friends or boyfriends of friends, most incredibly, who will say, my girlfriend just forwarded me this picture and apparently I'm supposed to buy it for her. How do I get it? And that is sort
That's
of
a well-trained man.
That's a well-trained man. That is sort of the most instant gratification tool that we're finding our customer has right now. And so on a smaller scale, in terms of technological innovation, that's really been an incredible tool for a small brand like ours.
Fantastic.
I also think, though, because of oversaturation and overstimulation, brands have to be more clever than ever before to figure out, how do I stand out? And sometimes, less is more. And I think at the end of the day, another thing that we say at Bloomingdale's, it's about the product. It's not, as much fanfare and as much Instagramming. If something is really special and amazing, it
Gonna find
will
its way.
continue to live. It won't. No marketing campaign can make something not great wonderful. It's just not going to happen.
So perfect. To that point, we're going to wrap this up here and then open some questions by getting a little personal. And this is maybe outside of our shoe and handbag and dress world, but on most days, regardless of what else I choose to put on, I put on this Omega Seamaster watch. It's a 65-year-old iconic watch that was iconoclastic in that it was a pioneering hybrid. It was a professional series sport watch amended to wear every day. So it was this sort of, let's take it out of the water and onto the suited wrist, if you will. They unbulked it by creating a new lighter weight movement. So there was the innovation. So in terms of thinking of iconic, iconoclastic, and innovative, it's your turn. Name something that's part of your life, whether it's every day or just an important part of your life, that is in this category that we're talking about, that touches you sentimentally for whatever reason, that holds that status of iconic, iconoclastic, or super innovative. Catherine?
I don't have them on now, and I shouldn't say this next to you, but I've had a small collection of Sol Moscat glasses that I've worn over the years, since I've been a glasses wearer. And so for me, those pieces that stand the test of time, and you go into the Sol Moscat store down on Delancey Street, and you read about how the brand started with a push cart on Orchard Street, a century ago.
Absolutely.
And for me, the brand has innovated as they've sort of had to stay with the trends and dress Johnny Depp or whoever it might be. And they've also made themselves iconic by having pieces that are recognizable and have stood the test of time from a quality and craftsmanship perspective. So I guess for me it would be eyewear of many different ilks, but for the specific example for me would be Sol Moscat.
Menagerie of Sol Moscat, I love it. Jay?
Clean panties.
Clan? In case you're in an accident, right? Absolutely, I understand. I had the same mother, I understand.
Oh my God.
Like in a fire car, be taken to the hospital. And a good attitude. Just
A good attitude.
Healthy, open attitude. And every now and then, when I think of Lilies of the Valley, I think of my grandmother. It's just one of those smells that if I just get my hands on it, it's just or I travel with it. It's just one of those are my three things.
Lovely.
I mean, when I go out, I have one evening clutch that my mother gave me. It's Bottega. It's a chocolate brown woven with a pretty big tassel. It looks better the more I beat it up.
Of course.
And it's big and mushy, and it's like the perfect evening clutch. It fits my phone. I always say a bag that fits more than a Tic Tac is my friend, and I just love it. I feel like myself. I feel like I have a piece of my mom. And my mom is somebody that I really look up to for her style, and so that would probably be my
Bottega clutch, that's a good
I
one.
do love Bottega.
Selima?
For me, it's like I have two kids and I have two necklaces that I wear all the time. And if I go out, if it's super dressy, super low key, and I always have to touch them and I think about them,
That's the best. How nice.
Love that.
Well, thank you very, very much. We really appreciate your time and your expertise today.
Yeah. You're amazing. You're so funny. Wow.
And if there are any questions, yes, please. Hi, Denise. You have lovely hair. Thank you.
What'd she say?
Plaid.
Oh.
Never showed up. So, I mean, how does something come back, or how does something become ubiquitous across the design industry?
I mean, I think that's a big that you're asking a big question. I think there are a couple of answers. I think look, the runways and what happens at the high end of the designer world is incredibly influential. And often, I won't say always, it starts there, because I think more so than ever, it's a fusion of street style and the runway. It's not like it once was.
Yeah, but also too, I think there's just probably sort of like a forecast, like a fashion forecast book that floats around somewhere, an inspiration.
That would be great.
And that, okay, so it's gonna be plaid, and then you just take plaid however you want to take it.
I'll tell you, I mean, certainly as I do a lot of forecasting because we design for a lot of businesses, and there are some wells of supply that people regularly go to, but specifically to plaid, there's an instance maybe that's a bit more about our sociocultural moment where people are desperate for things that aren't moving at 100 miles an hour, where people are looking for things that feel familiar and have some authenticity and age. And so they're going to companies like Harris, like Abraham Moon, some of the old mills in Italy. It's why Brunello Cucinelli can't weave enough cashmere to save his life or grow his business any faster. People are looking for the genuine at this point because we're so stuck in fast forward that I would say that there's this bit of nostalgia. Now, it's got to be luxe, it's got to be reinvigorated, it's got to feel fresh. But I think we're seeing, not just in plaid, but in lots of age-old everything, whether it's an iconic silhouette or an iconic material, we're seeing reinterpretations in things that feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Anything else? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do we have any bloggers sitting here in the room? Okay. I had one girl come up to me Fashion Week. Oh my God, we're here with Miss J, and we just like to know, like, what is in fashion? Like, what did you see so far? Like, what is the trends? And it was the first day,
Oh boy.
and it was the first show. And I said to her, you should be telling me. You should be educating me. She looked at me like I was crazy, and I said, no, you should be educating me. And she looked at me like this. What do you mean? I said, well, you tell me what's happening. I mean, it's just the first day, first show. Do you look for information from other sources, or do you wait till you get further into Fashion Week to write what you think is happening? And how much fashion information or knowledge do you actually have? Yeah, I'm asking. I'm asking the blogger. Put you on the spot. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And she was a little bit annoyed because I said to her, you know, do you have any more fashion information? And I said, okay, quick test. Give me 3 sleeves. She said, huh? I said, give me 3 sleeve types. I used to like you, but now I don't think I like you anymore. And I was like, that's fine. Raglan, Seton,
We
Legamouton,
won't be
Dolman,
reading her
Betsy.
blog anymore.
Exactly, and skirt, she, pencil skirt, dirndl skirt, full circle skirt, trumpet skirt, give me pleats. And she looked at me like I was completely crazy. So because you dress people and you have to convince them, my saying is if people don't buy what you're selling, you have to sell them what they don't want to buy. And so you do your homework, and she didn't do her homework.
No.
Boom, boom, boom. And I heard one girl, and I'm going to shut my mouth up after this, one girl give a description of a dress at Miss Universe. And she's wearing a light orangey colored silk, chiffony looking dress with silver sparkles and turquoise embroideries. And I puked in my throat a bit.
Any more questions? Yes, sir.
Very good question.
I mean, this is a big one to tackle.
Tackle it.
No, I think it's really tough. I think the fast fashion industry makes it more challenging to capitalize on trend messages. And look, some things are fads and some things are trends that are here to stay for a longer cycle of time. So we try to buy those, not the fads. No, but what was the question? So no, I mean it's a really big challenge. Right. Absolutely.
But I also think that and I wanted to ask Brooke this anyway, but I think that as I was trying to think of both icons and examples of iconoclasts from the past generation, it was very hard for me to think of contemporary ones. So my example of Vivienne Westwood isn't particularly contemporary, or I suppose Alaya, is both contemporary and timeless at the same time, so maybe that's an exception. But I don't think that, as I think about some of my favorite designers today, as much as I might adore their ability to make a perfect blouse, I'm not sure that they're iconoclasts.
I know. I was thinking this too. I have a hard time, and I don't know if you can only declare someone an iconoclast in I don't know if you can talk about that in the present.
I think it's more difficult because of the exposure and the streaming of fashion and how quick everything is. But I still think about examples where a show blows people's minds, where it's just an absolute upset. It happens less frequently, but I still think it is possible. It's unfortunately very expensive these days to make noise, and that's the challenge now. Is how do you, as an iconoclast on a low budget, communicate the message? And that's why people like you are doing the hard work, sort of searching out the crevices of fashion to find the newness, and why we appreciate the retailers that still care about that. Mm-hmm.
Well, yes, that is an ideal, that would be an ideal situation, but,
But I understood just in one of those when you shouldn't have been listening and you're walking by that they were even thinking to put, when they do fashion shows, the stuff was already in the stores, which you know they do that in Australia. Like they do, like the big department stores do fashion shows with the clothes that's in the store so that you can buy it right away.
right.
And I heard that there was kind of like, it was a little sniffing around there. Should we kind of do a
And
fashion show?
there's modus operandi, or
Yeah.
Say mode operandi and websites. I mean, I think this is a business model people have been trying to tackle for a long time. I mean, I think, you know, even the idea of watching a television show and trying to buy just trying to figure out that timing and how that would work to get what you see in real time. I think if someone could really figure out how to buy it off the runway.
I
right then
think
and there.
it's awful. I think it's because.
Yeah.
I don't wanna
For
cut you
us,
off.
it's totally different in the accessory business because we do the show, but we have already produced the goods. Then actually, it's a challenge because you better not make too many mistakes. I mean, you will always make a few, but we have the goods ready to ship as soon as you see them, you know, at the show.
Which is great because that way that doesn't affect my waistline when I buy something, you know, after I've seen it 4 or 5 months later.
And another thing, sorry, I was going to say also for clothing, it's like most of the designers, as say, draw inspiration from the past, and that's why it's great when you have vintage stores because usually you always have the silhouettes ready when you see the shows. Sorry, it's like.
And I think you make maybe an icon, maybe not an iconoclast, but I think icons, A, stand the test of time, and B, partly become icons because of an exclusivity. So if you A, have to wait, and B, even after waiting for a year, still can't get the piece, you're better likely that it's going to be an icon.
Right.
had a question right here. Yeah.
Jay made an interesting point about celebrity and fashion. And when I look at, as somebody a little older, when I look upon fashion, I look at people from the, let's say, best dressed list. I see people like Gloria Guinness and Mrs. Paley and different people. They dress themselves, they purchase their own clothes, they have their own wardrobe. The people that are now considered the best dressed in the world have dressers. They don't buy anything. They don't have their own jewels, their own shoes. They're handed a handbag, and they're told to carry this. So why is somebody an icon that has not an original thought?
That they pay people $2,000 to $5,000 a day to do
To
that
create.
and make them look that way. You see, not blowing smoke up his rear end, Marc Jacobs is very, very, very generous to me. Extremely generous, but I've also been friends with Mark and Robert Duffy most of my life, my 2/3 of my life. And they send me things, or I just take what I like, and and I get stuff that nobody would wear sometimes. And Versace used to give me things too that they only did on the runway. So 2 weeks ago, my double ring's in Paris, and it's corset with 2 pairs of shoes from Louis Vuitton that I've never seen before. Lizard with mother of pearl heels and shared mink tuxedo shoes.
Yikes.
I will be wearing, I think, to the Emmy, the Golden Globes, these shared mink tuxedo shoes with brown suede teddy bears on them. Only you can wear them and get away with it, Because again, I come from that old school of just taking something. When I couldn't afford an A shirt, I would take the collars off the shirt and make it an A shirt. Because my mother said, "There's 9 more to feed and clothe, and you can't have everything you want." She said, "If you like it, go out and get a job." So I went out and got a job, and I've been supporting myself up until this very day that I speak to, getting what I wanted, what I could afford. And every now and then I get something that doesn't fit. I'm 6'4". I'll send it back, and if they say keep it, I'll chop it up and make it new. And it's true, celebrities are now paying people a lot of money to look the way they look, but if you see them trying to pull it together from hair to makeup, it's really, they just bust it.
I think there are a few. There were always just a few Babe Paleys in the world and Slim Aarons of the world, and there probably
Buckleys.
are as many now as there are then. We just hear about so many more people because of the barrage of media that we have. But I know a few really chic women who buy their own
I think
clothes,
also
who
the
dress
stylists are
themselves.
celebrities.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, that's true.
Element that probably wasn't part of the conversation
Yeah.
before.
Well, this has been quite an interesting little panel this afternoon. Now,
Absolutely.
wasn't it, ladies
Yeah,
and gentlemen?
Last question? Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, if they get out of a car, at least keep your legs closed and wear some panties. First of all, to start. That's how you start, by keeping a little bit, under wraps. And second of all, if they don't write about it and don't talk about it, then we can get back to normal. Unfortunately, as we have too many media, social outlets that allow people to buy her jewelry, like immediately. But I think when it comes to celebrities, they're attached to the beauty products, they're attached to the accessories campaigns, or the clothing campaigns. And really, does the average woman sitting here or here actually go and buy what Nicole Kidman is wearing in an ad?
No.
Not.
I think that people are overstimulated. They're desensitized. I mean, the amount of emails that I received on Black Friday, I just delete. I flip. I'm looking personally, and I think the customer might be looking for an experience to bring them closer to a brand. So maybe brands are going to have to get a little smarter about drawing the customer in. I mean, it's not self-serving, but I think there is something about the experience of going into a store, trying on the clothes, feeling, touching, maybe having some type of an experience in the store that is above and beyond just that experience. And I don't know what that is, but maybe a recreation of some of those things that happen at fashion shows, like the art in the store, or there's music, or there are other elements that just make it an experience you want to be part of, as opposed to sort of just becoming robotic and disengaged from what we're talking about. And I hope that the reason we're talking about iconic things is because there is an appreciation for beautiful things that are well made, and maybe there'll be a pendulum swing to true artisan craftsmanship, and this fleeting thing will
I can confirm it's happening. I spend most of my development time in Europe and France making things for some lovely brands. And after years of factories closing and more factories closing and artisans no longer having work, I am seeing renaissance is too slow a word, almost a revolution. Tanneries that are working at the highest level of sort of the concerting arts, and jewelers working across a spectrum of brands that they never have before, and brands really asking us to bring the experience back to the brand. They need to connect emotionally to the consumer. And now, of course, some of these are very high-end brands, but not all of them are. Even if they're working with more moderate materials, it's how do we communicate to who we're selling these to, what it is we're all about, and what's the meaning behind why we're doing this. Most of these people didn't just sort of decide on a particular commodity and go into it like they decided to paint the wall white. There was some story, there was some reason, there was some, raison d'être, and that's what they're all asking us to communicate again, that experience that you're talking about.
I think that level of authenticity is very important. That's what we found is it sort of makes our products appreciated. It's not necessarily the price point or the material. At the end of the day, we're working in brass and non-precious materials, but it's the fact that we used a whalebone poker chip that we traveled to Uruguay to get, and there were 50 of them left before they destroyed them and switched to plastic poker chips in the casino. And
That's a beautiful
the
story.
customer, really appreciates that because they know they've got a piece of A, history, they've got a B, piece of the experience of the brand, and they have a little piece of art because they want to hang it on their wall after they're done wearing it. So I think that the sophisticated customer, which it sounds like yours are, need to have a little bit more of that stimulation and authenticity than just to have a million things thrown at them.
Yeah, I think the consumer is extremely savvy, and it's funny because I have 8 stores, you all know now. But what happened is we produce in France, Italy, and also a collection in China. And our consumers don't want the product made in China; they prefer to pay more. And on our website, we have 2 styles that are sold out because we do it on purpose. We always do like limited quantities in France, and there's a waiting list. And it's been now, I think, 2 years. The waiting list is constant for these 2 styles because people believe. I mean, the product is extremely good quality. There is a cultural, reference to it, and it was in a movie also. Then that's why. And I think the consumer is really, really very, very aware of everything.
I want to be on the waiting list.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it is.
But,
I want it.
Sorry.
but can they buy more than one piece if they're on the waiting list?
On the waiting, the problem is we produce 100 pieces, and it takes like nearly 5 months to get them. And then we have the waiting list. It's incredible. I mean, my assistant is there. She can tell you. It's like we are amazed. It's been already 2 years, and since then, always. And I could produce. Everybody tells me, why don't you make 1,000 pieces in China and make those styles? I'm like, no, because I want to be like Hermes with the Birkin bag,
2 a year,
and create an
1 a
icon,
season.
an iconic product.
Yeah. So I'm going to invite everyone to continue this fascinating conversation at the party this evening.
Right.
Lisa?
And the party, few little instructions, if I may. The party is at Holland and Sherry Bespoke, which is at 209 Elizabeth Street, between Spring and Prince. The phone number of the shop is 212-343-1261. Again, it's Holland and Sherry Bespoke, 209 Elizabeth, between Spring and Prince, 212-343-1261, and the party will go on from 6 to 8 and perhaps a bit thereafter. Also, with respect to tomorrow, since it was Saturday, we thought you might like to sleep a little later. And so breakfast is from 9, breakfast and book signings from, pardon?
Sorry.
Breakfast is from 9 to 9, and book signings are from 9 to 9:45. And the first speaker or the first conversation will be the photographer Anne Deneuve with Nancy Hull Duncan, and it will cover the iconoclast McQueen and Anne Deneuve's exquisite photography. So that will be the way we kick off the morning, and we will have segued from a Scottish evening to some Scottish subject matter as the focus of a wonderful conversation. So we'll see you at Holland and Sherry.
Subway. 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 Take the subway. Just
Right now?
Don't be ridiculous.
subway.
I'm so bad.
Thank you, guys.
Stay above
Thank
ground.
you.
You want me to stay above ground?
It's